guys, it's Holly here, and I wanted to record this short video for you because I have been getting quite a few DMs on my Instagram. If you aren't following me on Instagram on that note, please go and follow. And if you do have a question, I've been making a conscious effort to kind of go through, take a look at what you guys are interested in, and it's keeping me on the money because I feel like a lot of the time I know all these things and I have no idea what you guys want to know. So on that note, today's video is all about how to make progress towards your physique goals. I really just wanted to start with some of the basic things that are necessary to progress towards wherever it is that you want to be. A lot of you have very high expectations, and I know that the body composition that you are striving for is probably quite high. So the first thing that I want to kind of talk about, I guess, is looking at your lifestyle, looking at your mindset and your day-to-day behaviors. So before we even consider looking at things specific to diet or specific to training, consistency. It is so important. I will use myself as an example. If I look back 10 years ago when I was still at university studying, I would train consistently from Monday through to Friday. And then I'd get a text message for the weekend, hey, you're coming out, we're going out for dinner, we're doing this, we've got drinks, we're doing this party, going out dancing with the girls, and I was a yes man. Everything was a yes. I essentially just wanted to be social and I wanted to please people and, be available. I was always kind of putting that above and beyond my physique goals, and I wondered why I never really made a huge amount of progress. For the 4 days that I was going to the gym and training and working out, I was making some progress, but I was also limiting myself to how much progress I could actually make. So the first thing I want to really get you guys thinking about is, checking yourself. Is your mindset in the right place in order to achieve whatever it is that you are striving for? Because, if you are looking at your favorite Instagram fitness model or fitness accounts and that's where you want to be, sometimes we have to start saying no. So, if you're already questioning your weekend behaviors, and you don't really want to give up that social aspect, or you don't want to give up drinks with the boys, or cocktails with the girls, or weekends away and traveling, and you're not able to be consistent, the sad reality is you're probably not going to get as far as you want. Something to consider is that for a lot of these people, they also are excelling in other areas, and you might say, wow, they've got like this perfect life. They look like they're doing this is happening, they've got their own supplements, they have products. One of the reasons that these people are probably in that position is because not only do they apply these positive mindsets and behaviors and characteristics in the way that they train and their discipline towards their training, is that they probably also use those same values towards other areas in their life, whether it's their business, whether it's their personal life, their relationships, whatever it is. They have the qualities that enable them to, be disciplined and say no when they need to say no. And thank you, but no thanks. I have these other goals that are more important. That's the first thing that I really want you to get thinking about. Do I have those positive characteristics? Just being in the gym and tracking your macros and being consistent, 4 to 5 days a week, and training frequently is going to actually help you to redefine and change your body composition. If you can be in the gym consistently 4 to 6 days a week, and you're starting to be consistent with your dietary intakes, and you're not going out YOLOing on the weekends and binge eating and having cheat days, which essentially can undo all that hard work, you're probably going to start seeing increased muscle and loss of body fat. It does happen, especially if you are somebody that's brand new to training. So now looking at the specifics, I'm going to talk to you about two things. One is diet and one is training. So let's focus on diet first. For women out there, so many of you are petrified to eat in a surplus. For our entire lives, we've been told, be skinny, do lots of cardio, train, You've got to eat nothing in order to lose weight or to make progress. And whilst in some situations, yes, those things are necessary, in order to build a new foundation and to grow, so that rather than when you diet down, all you're left with is a tiny little bit of muscle and you're just really skinny, we need to create shape, and that requires muscle. Some of the best physiques out there are very muscular, and we've had to build and build and build and work on improving that. Making sure that you're not always dieting is crucial for this, okay? So you might be wondering, okay, well, what if I'm going to eat a little bit more? How much more should I eat? Well, that's a really great question. Hopefully by now you've been following me on my YouTube and social media long enough to know how to calculate your maintenance calories. If you don't, you can get all that information either in our books, so the Complete Contest Prep Guide or Fat Loss Forever, or you can go and take a look on my YouTube channel. I have videos that specifically talk about how to calculate your maintenance. So from here, we need to make sure that we're eating over and above that in order to facilitate muscle and growth. So there are some research studies that are looking at overeating or in a surplus. And, the old mindset or the bro style probably would be that, oh, you just got to eat a heap of stuff and eat all these carbohydrates and eat a ton of protein and just eat until you're full, and then you'll gain some weight. Yes, you probably will, but you're probably going to be gaining a bunch of body fat. So what the studies tend to suggest is that up to about 20% above your maintenance is a really good amount of calories to eat in order to see growth. In fact, they compared calorie intakes at either 20%, 40%, or 60% above your maintenance, and there was actually no greater increase in lean body mass at 40% or 60% above maintenance compared to 20%. What we then would see was actually just increases in body fat mass. So there's no point eating 60% above your maintenance because there's not really going to be any advantage as far as building more muscle. So let's think about what your current maintenance calories are. And for me, just for a practical example, it's 1,800 calories right now. I've just finished dieting and they're very low. Normally they're a little bit over 2,000. So 1,800, 20% is about 360 calories. So I'm going to take my calories up to about 2,100 and there's my surplus. That's great. And time in a surplus. You can't just do this for 4 weeks and be like, oh, okay, I've seen a little bit of weight gain, I might go back to dieting now. It's simply not enough time. In order to get progress and build muscle, we need to be in a surplus for a good amount of time. So if you don't have to diet and you truly want to make change to your body composition, 6 months would be the minimum amount of time I would suggest. And that's what I recommend to my clients. That's what I do myself. In that, period where you're gaining, to allow a significant or a worthwhile amount of new tissue to be built. So that's the kind of surplus we're talking about. It's not crazy. You don't have to go and eat, broccoli, chicken every single meal and, make yourself feel sick. It's a small surplus. Looking at your training. Now, the amount of training that you need to do to see progress is going to vary depending on what level you are at. How long you've been training. Are you a beginner or are you someone that's advanced and been training for 5 years? I'm probably at the point where I'm advanced. I've been training resistance trained for about 5 years now. Maybe a little bit more if we count my athletics days and, sticking my head in the door to do a bit of weights training once a week. But I would be considered advanced. If you've just started or you've only been training for maybe 12 months, you can probably consider yourself a beginner. So for someone that is just starting, going to the gym and doing resistance training 2 to 3 times a week probably is going to be enough for you to start to see significant improvements in your body composition. Just being consistent and starting to track your calories and make sure that you're consistent with those every day of the week, not just 4 days of the week. Those other 3 days, they will make a difference, I can tell you now. So if you're a beginner, 2 to 3 times per week is a great place to start. If you're more advanced, we probably need to be starting to look towards 4 through to 6 days. And for the most part, we generally have an idea about how many days a week we want to train. For me, I like 5 days because I like to have 2 days on the weekend to be able to enjoy my family, my friends. If I'm traveling, it gives me some flexibility. The next thing that you need to consider once you know what your training frequency is to look at your total training volume. Training volume is your sets times your reps, and it gives us an overall weekly load, okay? And we can look at that by either specific muscles within the body or muscle groups, or you can look at like a training load for specific exercises. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. So I could, what's my training volume for squats? Or what's my training volume for deadlifts? That'd be looking at a specific exercise. Or I could look at it as the approach of how many, or what's my training volume for my lower body? Or what's the training volume for my upper body? In order to progress, we need to make sure that over time, those volumes are increasing. Now, what does the research say about this? Well, based on what we know thus far, it seems that we can include up to about 45 sets on any particular muscle group, and we can see almost a linear increase or a linear improvement, okay? So the minimum is about 10 to start seeing significant progress, but up to 45 sets, so that's a lot, okay? So for me, I don't do that much, I just don't have the time. But what we do know is that we do need to continue adding more over time, and the more advanced we are, we need to keep making progress by increasing our volume. The other thing that we need to consider with our training and our design is looking at the intensiveness of that program. So we look at intensiveness, we look at our volume, and we look at our frequency. The intensiveness can be defined as either repetitions in reserve. You might see that written as RIR, and we use that on the BioLane Workout Builder to kind of track how intense that particular exercise needs to be, or that session. The other option or subjective measure to use to measure intensiveness is the RPE, rate of perceived exertion scale, and that's out of 10, or both are out of 10. So for RPE of 5, you're basically at about 50%. You could do probably 5 more reps, or an RPE of 9.5, you probably only got half a rep left and you're at failure. We don't want to be training at those high the high RPEs all the time. We need to make sure that we give our body rest, days between to allow for a proper recovery. Okay, you don't want to be doing back-to-back leg days every day of the week, because you're not going to give your chance time to heal and to repair and to grow. So if you're interested in kind of setting up your own training program, you can do that. Look up like non-linear training programming and you'll see some examples. But we also have the BioLane Workout Builder, which is a great place to start. And we have training programs from beginner through to advanced, and all the goals under the sun, whether you're a powerlifter, bikini model, fitness, bodybuilder, we have programs for all of those things. They are the 3 variables that we need to kind of look at when we're talking about our training programming. If you're just going into the gym and winging it and I think I've got upper today, yeah, I'll do these few exercises, and you don't really track how long you train for, how many sets, how many reps, how many exercises, if you're not really keeping a close eye on the weights that you're lifting, the next week when you come in, maybe you're doing a whole lot less. Or sometimes maybe you go in and you're with your friend and you get in the zone, and next thing you know, you've done 10 exercises in legs and you've done way too much, and then you end up pulling up really sore the next day and you can't train. So tracking made a massive difference to my progress. For probably the first 3 or 4 years of me training in the gym, I wasn't really tracking my weights, wasn't tracking my volume, and I kind of just went in and winged it if I was in a hurry. The most amount of progress I ever made was when I started recording and tracking and looking at my intensiveness, looking at my volumes, and looking at my training frequency. And then the areas that I wanted to bring up, all of a sudden, I'm seeing really great progress. Those are the specifics when it comes to training. Those are the specifics for our diet and what we need to do so far as building muscle, and the amount of time that we need to actually see progress. Don't feel like you are, having to diet all the time. I think that's the biggest problem for women, is fearing gaining weight. And we don't need to fear weight gain. That is in some ways essential, especially if you're looking at the scales as a measure of progress. If you're building muscle, you're going to see the scales going up. So, be logical about your approach and your mindset to this. If getting to here and that's your physique goal, well then there are some sacrifices that you need to make. It's not always going to be, I love my physique every minute of the day. I go through reverse diet phases for 6 months and I don't necessarily enjoy being at a higher body fat percentage. particularly when I've just come off stage and I've been, 10% body fat. I don't enjoy it, but it's also an essential part of that process of getting and improving and seeing composition change. Back to number 1, to summarize, looking at your consistency. Do you have the mindset to be at the level that you want to be? If you are umming and ahhing about, having to give up that social aspect of your life, or, I don't really want to have to track macros, that's all too hard. Or, I don't really want to have to go to the gym regularly all the time. I want to be able to go away and travel, do whatever it is that you do. Well, I'm just letting you know that the reality is you probably aren't going to get to that top level, and you need to be okay with that and settle with somewhere maybe here. So your mindset, your lifestyle, your choices, your behaviors, they're all very important. Number 2, calories. Making sure that you're not always dieting and that you're in a small surplus. It doesn't need to be crazy in order to facilitate lean body mass. If we're really low in body fat all the time, we don't have a caloric cushion to facilitate growth. We need to have a little bit of body fat kind of as a buffer so that now the calories that we consume can be used to facilitate growth. And finally, training. Making sure that you have a set program, that you're not winging it, you're not walking into the gym fluking, that you have a set and consistent training frequency, that your volumes are increasing and progressing over time. And if you have areas that you want to improve, that you're focusing on them. You're increasing the volume, okay? Maybe if you're only doing 3 sets, you increase it to 4 sets this week. In 6 weeks' time, maybe that goes up to 5 sets per week to increase volume. And then finally, the intensiveness of your training. Are you looking at an RIR scale or an RPE scale to judge how intense you're working? Because we can get lazy, we can fall off. So it's good to have those subjective measures to actually track that. I hope this has been useful for you guys. I know this question is asked a lot, and I wanted to kind of give you a bit of a basic overview on what's needed if you want to get to the top. Thanks for watching.